Welcome to the Less Doing podcast, where you will learn how to start living more by doing less.
Let me help you optimize, automate, and outsource your entire life so you can focus on doing the things you love.
Now here's your host, Ari Mizell.
Welcome back to the Less Doing podcast. I'm your host, Ari Mizell, and fair warning, this is an explicit podcast in general, but I am going to start off with some explicit words. So if you're in the car, turn down the volume or put your kids somewhere else for now. I have Ryan Munsey as my guest today, the author of Fuck Your Feelings, and Master Your Mind, Accomplish Any Goal, and Become a More Significant Human, which all sounds like things I like to talk about. So Ryan, thanks for taking the time to talk to me.
Ari, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on the show, and I'm looking forward to diving into this with you.
Yeah, so let's do exactly that. So for just sort of some context for people, this book is a neuroscience-based exploration of why some people succeed and others do not. It combines the latest research and science with the real-world practices of high performers to deliver an engaging, informative user's manual that helps us understand the space between our ears. So, Ryan, why you?
Why me? That's a great question. I've been obsessed with human potential and human performance for, I could easily say my entire life, but I really started investigating it maybe about 10 or 12 years ago. I went to college at Clemson University. I grew up playing sports my entire life. I was not a good enough athlete to play at that level. If anybody is familiar with Clemson's athletic prowess, you can understand why that was the case. However, my best friend was good enough to be a high jumper there, and he ended up winning the ACCs 7 times as a high jumper. And through our friendship, I was able to hang out with him in the track team, and I got to witness elite human performance at an arm's length. And if you've ever seen an Olympic caliber or an NFL caliber athlete, you just, as soon as you witness that, you know you're looking at something different. And that was my first taste or first exposure to, really true high level performance. And I became obsessed with figuring out how to get there. And, like I said, over the last decade to 12 years, not only has that quest for knowledge been in the realm of physical performance, but in the realm of business and cognitive performance. I've got a degree in food science and human nutrition. I'm a former gym owner. I've been a bodybuilder and a fitness model in New York City. I've had the opportunity to do a lot of really amazing things, and I've had some success in my own pursuits, but I've also coached and worked with a lot of people who have had success in their own pursuits. And through all of those things, whether it's being a gym owner or a strength coach or a fitness writer or nutritionist, those are essentially transformations. And, I've been able to see what helps people and, what typically holds people back. And, this book was an opportunity to distill the research and the science from, academia and compare it with the real world strategies used by the Olympic and professional athletes that I've worked with, the special forces operators that I've had the chance to work with, and, all of the high school kids that I've helped get college scholarships to play sports. Like I said, I've gotten to work with an incredibly rewarding cross section of humans, and I've seen what works and what usually holds people back. So this was, I think, the most frustrating thing for me is, when it's that pain of not being able to do what we want to do with our lives. And this was sort of this is my best effort to help everybody who has that desire to move from where they are to where they want to be.
Well, that's very selling. That really sells me on it. So, what Well, and again, it sounds like you kind of learned by doing. I mean, you obviously have your degrees, but it sounds like you just sort of got good at this.
Yeah, that's absolutely the truth. I mean, this from your background. I mean, there's no blueprint or there's no playbook or program that we can sign up for to learn these things. And I think that's what life is. It's experience, and it's who you get to surround yourself with, or choose to surround yourself with. And we can learn from all of these people, learn from all of these experiences, and then, turn it into, a blueprint to help other people. And I mean, had I not been through these experiences or, met and encountered all of these people that, helped compile what is in this book, it wouldn't be possible.
Well, and so now why fuck your feelings? What's wrong with feelings?
Well, there's a few reasons. I'll give you three reasons that's the title of the book. Number one, it's as you read the book, it's in chapter 1. We'll talk about there's a cognitive researcher, neuroscientist, Antonio Damasio, who found out that around 95% of the decisions we make as humans are made based on how we feel in that given moment. And he discovered this by working with some people who had some injuries to their brain and certain areas that were responsible for feelings and emotions left people unable to make even the most simple decision, even something as simple as, where do you want to go for lunch? And what's interesting about that is, typically we would think that being able to remove emotions or feelings would make us robotic and it would help us to be better decision makers. But the truth is that it actually rendered people unable to make even the most simple decisions. So this isn't a book about, hey, be this macho, 1950s person that, ignores your feelings and, doesn't get in touch with, what's going on. It's actually quite the opposite. It's more about understanding what's going on from a biological standpoint, understanding that we are all humans, whether you're Oprah or Richard Branson and some successful person, that's still the same organism, still wired the exact same way as somebody who has not yet achieved what they want to achieve with their life. And bringing an awareness to this, which then creates choice and allows us to say, okay, this is what's going on, but that's not what's, if I choose an action or a step forward based on how I feel in this moment, as opposed to moving forward in alignment with my values and my stated goals. So that's where the whole master your mind and accomplish any goal subtitle for the book comes in. And then two other reasons that's the title. That's always been self-talk for me. It's always been something that I've used to, do the uncomfortable thing or make that phone call that I was scared to make. It's just something I just tell myself. I know that if I were to give in to my feelings and not do what I was supposed to do, that would hinder me from getting where I want to get with my own life. And the third reason is it's provocative. It stops people. And, there are so many books out there. There's so many books in bookstores or as you scroll through Amazon. And I wanted something that, would stand out.
Yeah. Well, and it does. So can you talk about polyvagal theory?
Yeah. So I came across Dr. Stephen Porges's research a few years ago and actually was lucky enough to interview him on a previous podcast that I hosted, the Optimal Performance Podcast. And Stephen Porges is a really, really smart guy. Actually, back in the 1960s, he discovered heart rate variability, which in the world of health and fitness over the last few years has become a very valuable metric, and for good reason. It was funny, when he tells the story, he talks about other scientists not believing him and actually telling him that the variability in his data was proof that he was a bad scientist. So we have to give him a lot of credit and a lot of respect for being persistent and not listening to people who were saying that, he made mistakes in his data collection. But heart rate variability is tied in with polyvagal theory. But essentially, what he also discovered was that there were differing opinions on the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is the 10th cranial nerve. It connects the brain and the gut, and actually not just the gut, but all of our visceral organs. And what Dr. Porges posited is that there is a hierarchy of how we can respond in any given situation. The first two levels are the most primitive, and they are rooted in our limbic system, that lizard brain. The first one is immobilization. So like playing possum or freezing. And what's interesting is that there are a lot of people who have been exposed to extremely traumatic situations, military type trauma, first responders. I think he mentioned that he's worked with a few people who were first responders during the 9/11 incident, and they actually lost control of their bowels. And this is a physiological response that gives rise to what we mean when we say someone is scared shitless. Like, you actually lose control of your bowels. And that is a primitive response from our biology. The second level of this hierarchy is fight or flight. So, if we used an example of somebody in a bar, you may bump into this behemoth of a human in a bar and spill their drink. That first response of immobilization might be to, just drop into the fetal position and try to protect yourself. The second response may be fight or flight, where you either choose to fight this thing or you run away. And both of these are sympathetic nervous system responses. And again, rooted in that primitive lizard brain, the limbic system. The higher, the newest response that we have in this hierarchy as part of the polyvagal theory is using verbal communication to try to reach a solution, to either de-escalate a situation or to avoid some sort of confrontation or whatever, to just to tell that guy at the bar, hey, I'm sorry, my mistake, let me buy you a drink. Or in some other way, talking through this thing. And that is using the prefrontal cortex, the neocortex, and that is a portion of our brain that has evolved much more recently than that primitive lizard brain.
Well, so in your daily life, I mean, it's always interesting when you're podcasting with somebody and you can hear like the calm sort of timbre of your voice. Do you find that you are less reactive, I guess, in general because of this?
Well, I would say yes, but only because of, part of what you just mentioned is that there's an awareness there. And, and that is really what I want people to take from the book. And, again, going back to that first answer of, we're all the same organism. We're all wired the same way. My biology is no different from yours, and ours is no different from a listener's, and no different from pick your favorite famous person, whoever you want to be, Richard Branson, Oprah, Elon Musk, whatever. But the thing that separates us is how we deal with our environment and the choices that are in front of us. And in my daily life, am I different because of this? I would have to say yes, because of that awareness, being aware of that and reminding myself of that when things pop up. And then it is awareness that gives us choice. And that's where the power lies. We have to realize that either we are in control of this thing and we're steering the ship, or these feelings and emotions, this primitive lizard brain, is going to direct us on its own. So for me, learning that, it was a no-brainer to just say, okay, well, I'm going to take control of this thing, and I'm going to write my own story, and I'm going to dictate, the path of my life. I don't want to let, this primitive biology, running subconscious patterns and belief systems guide me. Because if that's the case, we're never going to get where we want to get with this life.
Yeah. Are you in a relationship, Ryan?
I am. I'm married. Been with my wife since 2009. Got married in 2016, so almost 2 years.
And how do you see this playing out in your married life?
Well, I'm really fortunate. My wife is smarter than I am, and she's an internal medicine physician. So we can have some really cool conversations. When we met, she was a yoga instructor and a group exercise instructor. So fitness, meditation, health, these things have always been a part of her life, and big things that we bonded over as we began our relationship. So. What's really cool is that we get to learn and explore these things together, have these conversations, and build them into our relationship and the practices that we put in place to strengthen our relationship and make it one that grows and builds over time.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I thought you were going to keep going. Sorry. I mean, and like any couple, I imagine you have fights, right? So like, how does that play out in that? I'm trying to get very specific here, obviously. So how in like that situation does that play out? Are you sort of stop and?
My wife's name is Donna. Donna is, she is incredibly fiery and passionate. And that's one of the things I love about her. And you're right. I mean, we're married, and like any relationship, there will be, conversations that aren't as pleasant as others. But what's funny is I refuse to yell or to scream or to argue. And there are so many times where she'll actually stop. I don't, there's no way to say this without making it sound like she tries to pick fights. That's not the case. But when she tries to bring things up, or, if I make her mad, or for whatever reason, she gets at first more upset that I won't engage in an argument, but then eventually just starts laughing and, sees that, I guess what I'm getting at is that the way that this manifests is that I refuse to argue. I will stay calm because I understand that whatever that thing is that is creating an emotional response in the moment is something that needs to get sorted through. But at the end of the day, it's not something that, I will allow to negatively impact my relationship with my wife or a friend or, anybody else. So I think it does allow me to sort of stay calm in moments of, emotional or, I don't want to say distress, but, highly charged moments.
Yeah. Well, but doesn't that run the risk of like invalidation then?
No, I don't think so, because again, it's what I'm practicing is being able to really zoom out and keep things in perspective.
Yeah. And it's which is very hard.
It is. And I think it's, I do want to still be able to zoom in and say, look, I understand, what you're saying and why you're feeling this way. But, and that's really what I want to try to get at is the root of what's going on in these moments. Why do you feel this way? What have I done to make you feel this way? Or, what is causing this response? And then how do we get to what the real root of that matter is? And Donna's background in medicine, she's a doctor of osteopathics, so she's a DO, not an MD, and her approach to medicine is very much like a functional medicine doctor, or where she wants to find the root cause. She's not one of those, let me write a prescription and slap a Band-Aid on it. So, she is used to thinking that way. So I think we're pretty fortunate in the way that we both kind of think and have the same approach to relationships and working through things.
Well, and so somebody reading the book, what are some of the practical things that they're going to get in terms of being able to model that in their own lives?
Yeah. So I did my best to provide what I call tools. I like calling these things tools because I think it puts the responsibility on the user to understand their function and application. If we can own something, if we can own the information, then we can apply it and implement it in any situation. and decide when and how to do so, as opposed to me just saying, oh, you need to eat a salad or you need to do this workout. I never want people to have to rely on me as the nutritionist or the trainer or, the personal development guru, whatever you want to call it. I want people, it's that old adage of teach a man to fish and he can feed himself for life. So these tools are presented in the book in ways that, first we start with the science, helping people understand that biology. So then if you can own that information, then you can identify what your own needs are, and then you can choose the right tool for the job. So some of the tools that are in the book, yoga, meditation, breathing, cold therapy, movement, these are all things that we can utilize to change our physiology, which can then change our mental state. And, one of the things that we explore early in the book is the fact that feelings from a neurobiological perspective are defined as mental experiences of physiological or body states. So quite literally, our physiology dictates our feelings or our emotional state. And if we can understand that, then, we can start to investigate how we're feeling and what that state is. And then we can say, okay, well, is this where I want to be? Do I want to be in a different way? And if we do, then we can start to identify which tools can help us move in that direction. Maybe it's, listening to the right music for that day, or, doing cold exposure, or just focusing on your breathing if we're, feeling too stressed out. So there are around 10 or 11 different tools in the book that folks can learn how to implement so that they can, take control of their physiology and their mental states.
So and this is the last question I always like to ask, is what are your top 3 pieces of advice for people to be more effective?
We've already talked about awareness. I'll highlight that as one. I mean, I think it's really hard to be effective if you're not aware of, what's going on. We mentioned special forces people. I've been fortunate to work with a lot of people in that community, and I mean, it's situational awareness is what they would call it. And whether you're an athlete or an entrepreneur or special forces person, it's very difficult to be effective if you're not aware of your surroundings and what's going on. I think number 2, I would say understanding goal and context. So, using maybe nutrition or fitness as the arena for this example. We have so many people talking about, well, this is the right diet, or this is the right diet, or you need to work out in this way. Well, why? What are you trying to accomplish? What's the goal? If you wanted to use the business arena, you have people talking about whether or not you need social media, or you need to run ads, or you need this, whatever software as a service. Go a level deeper and understand, what you're trying to accomplish. Why are you doing these things? And I think that will shed light on helping to make a better decision as to whether or not, you need to do that particular thing. So goal and context is always important. And then third, I would say values. Define your values, and those can serve as not only a compass to help guide you in the right direction, but they can serve as a screen or a vetting process to help understand if opportunities or people are the right things to say yes to. You define those values one time, and then they can help keep you aligned and make sure that the choices you're making are moving you in the right direction, and not leading you astray or off track.
Yeah, well, that's very, very helpful. Thank you, Ryan. So where can people find out more about you, and also, of course, get the book?
Yeah, so the book is available on Amazon right now. We just sold out at Barnes and Noble, so hopefully they'll be back in stores. And my website is ryanmunsey.com. Instagram is @RyanMunsey_. And my podcast is the Better Human Project. So any of those places.
Awesome. Well, Ryan, hey, thank you so much. That was great.
All right. Thanks for having me, man. This was a blast.
Thanks for listening to the Less Doing podcast.
If you'd like to get more done in less time, join our exclusive community of entrepreneurs and visionaries, the Less Doing Labs. It's free and just for you. Go to lessdoinglabs.com/more done.